Welcome, everybody, to the show. Joining me is our illustrious co-host and fellow traveler, Dan the Dan Noodles Man.
Yeah, good evening, good evening.
So hopefully we're trying a new experiment here tonight with this streaming to multiple channels thing. I don't know if it's actually going to work. It's a new feature on StreamYard. It looks like it's working, so that's cool. Even though it's not working right. So we'll see how that goes. Oh, I managed to cut myself. How about that? Anyway, our topic tonight is anything but World War II. And kind of how I want to approach that is not only, what are cool non-World War II topics, but what are kind of interesting non-World War II, non-popular topics that have nevertheless gotten a decent amount of coverage in wargaming. So, for example, World War II is the most obvious example. I haven't actually done an analytics on this, but I suspect that I'm right when I say that there's as many World War II war games released every year as there are on every other topic put together. I think that's probably almost certainly true. But there's also a fair number of ancients topics and Napoleonics topics. Let's say that the big four here are World War II, Napoleonics, American Civil War, and maybe ancients. Although I don't feel like we get all that much traffic in wargaming in the space of ancients. I mean, it's not nothing, right? But it's not like we've got a dozen good. I mean, there's probably at least half a dozen solid Napoleonics or American Civil War titles released every year, and 50 World War II games, right? And we get maybe one or two ancients. That it seems like it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not paying attention in the right places. So maybe it's because I don't do the magazine war games all that often. I've recently been doing some digging on old S&T games, and I looked at the top 25 rated, according to Board Game Geek, S&T games. And of the 25, 23 of them were produced by SPI, 2 were Decision, 1 was 3W. And I found that to be an interesting, but possibly statistically dubious piece of information. I mean, those games by definition have been around for a long time, right? So presumably they've got a bunch of numbers, a bunch of ratings and stuff like that, where a game that came out 3 years ago from Decision in Modern War may or may not have good ratings. Who knows?
Hey, Ardi, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I know you're not a tactical. That's not to say whatever. Okay, so yeah. Let's say World War II tactical, and we were talking about ancients before. How much does your strategy have to change between the same tactical tactical system in conjunction to World War II and ancients?
Well, if you're playing an Avalon Hill game from the 60s and 70s, maybe it doesn't have to change at all because they're probably using the same CRT. I mean, that's a bit of a fatuous statement, right? But it might actually be accurate. I mean, consider that the exact definition of, scale varies by topic, right? So a tactical World War II tends to be squads or platoons, maybe companies, but every company scale game I've ever played really kind of feels only half tactical at most, as opposed to how many men and how many men in a squad, right? 10 thereabouts, depending on exactly what kind of squad you're talking about. But then you look at a Great Battles of History, and that's tactical, right? How many people are in each of those units? I'm not sure the game ever actually says, but it's at least a couple hundred. In some cases, several hundred, right? If you're looking at Civil War, tactical tends to be regiments. If you're looking at Napoleonics, tactical tends to be battalions. In the course of designing games to deal with these different scales, you're going to end up with different types of game systems and game mechanics. So the gameplay is going to differ significantly. I think there's a big difference. It's a completely different space when you're talking about tactical Napoleonics versus tactical World War II, right?
So, look at that stacking limit. Look at that
stacking limit. Fabulous.
I know what fatuous means. Look at me. I'm fatuous.
He is very fat. He is extremely fatuous, if you know what I'm saying.
Thank you.
So we are. I just thought it would be amusing to put that graphic up in the background. Jeff Beeler says World War II is the setting with all the toys. Yeah, that's true. Napoleonics has the coolest uniforms. That's also true. And U.S. Civil War is what? Well, you know, there's like a cultural general resonance of World War II, right? Because it was a huge thing. It was very dramatic, and it's 70 years ago now, so it's not recent anymore, but it still strikes a cultural chord in society as a whole, not just among war gamers, that I think a topic like Napoleonics probably doesn't. Probably the closest is American Civil War here in the U.S., right? But some of the most serious American Civil War gamers I know are Canadians. So,
and you know what? To answer the question, anything but World War II. How many movies have been made on World War II as opposed to anything else?
Oh, a shit ton. So we get a couple of World War II movies a year, right? Where we're lucky if we get something about the ancients or Napoleonics. It's like once every 20 years, maybe. With the occasional foreign production throwing my numbers off. We are allegedly simulcasting on both channels, Meandering Mike. That is absolutely true. This is a new feature added to StreamYard literally days ago. So we I don't know how it works. We're gonna try it, and I see no reason not to do it. So Abraxas MF points out that the size of the battle space changes. Lutzen scenario in Musket and Pike takes only up a few hexes of the Lutzen map from Library of Napoleonic Battle. Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think that through because I haven't actually looked at that scenario in Musket and Pike. So there's that. World War I, I would argue, is a space that is picking up steam over, and this is not a new trend. This is a trend over the last 20 years or so, 20, maybe 25, but basically since Paths of Glory came out, because Paths of Glory has awakened people to the fact that you can actually get good gaming out of World War I, which was not obvious to everybody in the 70s. Let's put it that way. Based on their experiences with the dreadful slog that is Guns of August. Not that Guns of August is a bad game. It's actually quite a good simulation, I think, but it's not necessarily enjoyable to play. It's a big slog to play. So I believe, strictly speaking, neither of these game systems is strictly tactical. I'm much more familiar with Library of Napoleonic Battles, so I'm going to use that as the baseline here. I've only briefly looked at my copy of Musket and Pike that's actually no longer sitting behind me on the shelf. But Library of Napoleonic Battles has some tactical elements. I know Stigler will be back, and I've been back and forth on this a bunch of times, but it's got some tactical elements. It's got some operational elements. I think it, on balance, has more tactical elements than operational elements. But its scale suggests operational very strongly. So this is why I tend to call it grand tactical when this question comes up, because grand tactical means whatever I want it to mean, somewhere between operational and tactical, and grand operational means nothing to anybody except Joe Youse, as far as I can tell. So there's that. So yeah, we're on both channels. So I am the host here tonight, but we're broadcasting to both channels. Like I said, this is a new StreamYard feature. Tactical is battalion level and below. Again, it depends on the topic. I mean, I would say that almost certainly battalions would be considered tactical for a lot of periods, but then if you look at World War II, battalions are generally considered operational, and I think there's very few exceptions to that. So
but it's funny that word tactical. There's something tactical even in a strategic type game, if you think about it. No?
Oh, almost always, yeah.
Right.
Well, yes. I mean, there is the tactics of how you actually move and fight the pieces, right? That's a tactical element. So at that kind, that's a very meta game mechanics way to look at it. But if you're looking at it that way, then you're going to end up with that. But you're still calling the game a task, strategic or operational game, or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
So Jeff Beeler points out that the fighting in World War I in the first 3 months was closer to World War II than the rest of World War I. The rest of World War I on the Western Front. On the Eastern Front, it remained mobile for much longer periods than on the West Front. But on the West Front, yeah, I mean, we all realize that There's a lot of movement the first 3 months, and then it bogs down into trench warfare, right? And that happened in the East as well, but there's a lot more open space and a lot less frontage to cover the open space. So a lot more maneuver continued to happen throughout the course of World War One on the Eastern Front. You also saw the slow grind of trench warfare down in the Italian front too, between the Italians and the Austrians. So, Jeff says that in World War One, companies were tactical, but by 1918, platoons were tactical. Yeah, that's actually a good point. I mean, where that line falls is going to depend on the exact topic, not just the general topic of World War One or whatever, right? So you can look at this has come up kind of repeatedly in the context of people suggesting various grueling Pacific Island battles for BCS, the Battalion Combat Series. And well, you could just kind of look at the units that fought in whatever Saipan or whatever, and kind of come up with a map scale that makes sense. You realize that battalions are not really doing much as battalions at that in those on that particular topic in that particular battle. So.
What's Stigler's game? What scale is it? And not scale. What is it? Tactical? I know it's not tactical, but strategic.
What game are we talking about?
His Stigler's game that's going to come out now.
By sword and by sword and bayonet. That's tactical, right? GBACW is clearly tactical, and that's regimental scale Civil War.
Okay.
You'll see a very small number of smaller level units in a decent sized GBACW battle, like companies of sharpshooters and that kind of stuff. But you'll have, I don't know, 300 Union counters and 300 Confederate counters, and like 2 of them will not be regiments. So there we go. This is a topic that does not need any boosting from me, right? This is a topic. Now, this is a relatively recent trend. This is a topic that's was really hot in the late 70s and early 80s, and absolutely went stone dead for decades. And to some extent, that's probably traceable to the fall of the Soviet Union and the apparent end of the Cold War. But in recent years, like the last 5 years or so, maybe 7 years, this has really taken off again. And I'm not sure if that's due to larger social trends and geopolitical concerns that we read about in the news, or if you get your news, like most Americans nowadays, from Facebook, or if it is strictly a gaming phenomenon because several excellent games came out that inspired people to play and make more of them, right? So,
is he swearing? Is he swearing with GTFO?
Yes.
Okay.
That's okay, though. I don't care.
I thought it was another system or something.
No. Actually, that makes me want to come up with a system that I can acronymize as GTFO. That's great. And I would call Tactics 2 an operational game and not a tactics game, just based on a brief glance at the way it plays.
Really?
So there's that. Yeah, but I mean, remember, Charlie Roberts is designing this stuff out of friggin' thin air, man. So, I mean, Tactics 2 based on Tactics 1, obviously, but I mean, there's not a lot of study or anything like that you have access to back in 1954, unless you're like in the military or a military archivist or a professional military historian or something like that. So, and even then, at that time, half that shit's classified. So, Grand Tactical Fighting Onward. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Meanders says more coverage of the next war in space, near future hypothetical. I wouldn't object to. So I don't object to near future hypothetical in like general out of any kind of principle, right? It's not a topic I'm terribly interested in. But I'd certainly be interested enough to take a look at something that deals with near future hypothetical in this particular arena. I think that might be very interesting. I'm positive that what you would get is a game that doesn't look at all like a conventional war game. So This is probably not recommended, right? There is a lag here,
There's
although
gotta
there
be a
technically
lag.
shouldn't be, because we're both streaming to StreamYard, and then StreamYard is streaming to both channels, so it should be basically completely synchronized as far as I could tell. But then again, I'm seeing my channel in StreamYard rather than on YouTube. So where
Right.
there's not much lag, but you'll probably get a strange audio effect if you try that. Let me put it that way. Jeff Spieler says, interesting that we have not seen more games on the three wars Iraq was in from 1990 to 2003. There's been a couple. Modern War has covered it, I'm reasonably sure, at least once. But it hasn't really been covered. Is it too soon? I don't know. I mean,
Well,
I
no,
feel like we were all rah victory after the last one. So
it's funny. It's funny that this came up because I was talking to Ben Hull, and I was asking, why don't you make some of these games that you're into now? You know, I mean, the conflicts that are happening now. And he says, I signed a non-disclosure agreement, and a lot of this shit's classified.
Well, that's probably true. You talked to Mark Herman about that too. Now, Mark Herman is working with David Doctor on a game about the Ukraine conflict. And I had pretty strong reservations about that topic as a topic when people started talking. I recognize that this particular phase of this conflict is about 13 months old right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, people started talking about, hey, somebody should make a game on this about 3 months after it started. And I had pretty significant reservations about that. It's like, I don't know, man. I mean, a lot of the information that we're getting on this smells like bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't know how good our sources of information are. I don't know how we can we can like divine the dynamics of what's going on over there based on my Twitter feed, right? So you know, I think there's reasons. I don't see a reason why we shouldn't cover it as a topic. I think my concern is that are we able to model it accurately based on the information that we actually have?
No.
And well, you know, that's my reservation. On the other hand, if there's anybody I could think of that I would trust to handle that well, it's Mark Herman. I mean, remember the famous example of Gulf War, where the Gulf War breaks out, they know they're going to have to intervene, and the Pentagon says, oh shit, we haven't developed a plan for this. Go buy all the copies of Gulf Strike from the local hobby stores and call Mark Herman on the phone and have him sign a security agreement and get him down here. And I mean, that's, you know, the short version of Mark's own story. So
that's insane.
So, you know, I think Mark's kind of got a proven track record on shit like this. So I am interested in what Mark has to say about it. Let me put it that way. Now, where this is getting published, no, I don't know that Mark has said. So Jeff Beeler points out that the Gulf War why did that not work? Was short but had tactical fighting scenarios. Sure, I'm sure that's true. And then, you know, there's an additional dimension where now that Gulf War seems to loom less large in comparison to the decades-long guerrilla stuff that followed it in both Iraq and Afghanistan. And that's more difficult to model. It's less comfortable for people to want to play a game on it. And probably less comfortable for publishers getting this kind of stuff pitched to them as well. So,
you know, we got some good comedians in the chat.
Oh, it's a nonstop hilarity here on the show. So it's this is true. You chip the counters with stone tools. I actually saw somebody's 3D printed counters for the Next War series from GMT. Why they're doing that, I have no idea.
Holy moly.
But and they looked really good, but they're using resin printing and not filament printing like I'm using. So if I tried to do that, unless they were like 2 inches across, they would look terrible. So,
and where can we see these, man?
It was a Facebook post that I saw. So yes, an acronym is different from an abbreviation. That's true, but ZOC for Zone of Control is an acronym. So there's that. So I just like my counters to look really nice. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Come on. Don't you like pretty stuff, Stigler? Come on.
Oh yeah, I mean exactly. I'm
Oh my
trying to.
God,
I
it's
don't have the image with me on this setup, unfortunately. Or I'd pull up the image of Stigler selling counter clippers at the Decision Games booth. So, which is fantastic, incriminating evidence that will be used until the end of time. William Aarons, thank you so much, much appreciated.
hello from Quebec.
Yeah, there you go. Just started another game from Against the Odds. These brave fellows about the Battle of Durenstein. Maps twice as large as OSG. Well, so that's the Library of Napoleonic Battles is really at a weird scale if you think about it. It's where it doesn't quite fit 100% comfortably in tactical and doesn't quite 100% fit comfortably in operational either. So if you have a game that is going to just feature one battle as opposed to the 4 out of 6 that you typically get in the Library of Napoleonic Battles box, then you're probably going to get a smaller scale game, right? Unless it's a magazine game or something like that. So I'd be curious about that. And I'm kind of going through. I'm rebuilding my war game and actually all this stuff database from scratch, basically, because I haven't been tracking RPG stuff for years, so I've no friggin' idea what I've had, what I've lost. Speaking of lost, there's a box of Against the Odds magazines around here somewhere. I have no idea where it's at. And that includes Toppling the Reich and their game about the Russian Civil War for Bloody Honor. Some very interesting things in that box. It sure would be nice if it would turn up. I'm reasonably impressed with the quality of the games and the magazine that I see from Against the Odds. So,
and are they still iffy with their schedule and coming out?
I think their schedule. I haven't really been following Against the Odds magazine for that long, so I don't know. But I mean, they don't do much more than a couple issues a year, right? So it's not like C3I, which is pretty reliably one a year. Against the Odds usually does a little more than that, but
am I thinking of Battles magazine?
You may be thinking of Battles magazine.
Probably.
I have never physically seen a copy of Battles magazine, so I have no idea. It's supposed to be good, but I have never physically seen a copy, so I can't tell you. I'm not 100% sure that HTO is making a quarterly schedule with clockwork precision. Let me put it that way. But on the other hand, if it takes them a couple extra months to do the thing and it's good, I'll take that. Thank you. So, and I think S&T or bi-monthly. I might be wrong about that. And then there's the S&T quarterly that does not contain a game. So I have also never seen, I've physically seen them, but I have never owned a copy of Ya magazine.
Oh, I got a couple.
So it looks like an interesting magazine. It's certainly graphically distinct. But I guess this is true. But it's, language is complicated. What can I say? Why is that up? That shouldn't be up. Okay, we fixed that. So
it's true. C3I, is it regular?
I don't know if that it's regular, but it's once a year. It's pretty much once a year. But I mean, I think you could make the case. I'm not necessarily making the case, but I think you could make the case and have a discussion about it being an exceptionally high quality magazine with typically very good games by magazine game standards. But it's a different kind of magazine than Against the Odds or War Diary or S&T, right? It's about wargaming. S&T and War Diary and Against the Odds are largely not about wargaming in the magazine. They're about the history. So they're really different kinds of magazines. So, William Aarons, this sounds approximately correct to me. It sounds like it's on about a quarter size map. That sounds about right. 34 by 22 is the standard wargame map size. So, yeah, I suspect that the turnaround time is something like 11 to 13 months. I again, I haven't like done math on this, but that sounds like what it is about to me. Ooh, if I could only subscribe to one of ATO, C3I, and S&T, which would I choose?
C3I.
I think you'd get your more money. So if you had a year subscription and you ignored the cost, you'd be getting more content from S&T than from the other two. You'd be getting less content from C3I, and maybe you really value the military history content in the other two magazines that typically accompany the game, right? So if it's a game about the German atom bomb project,
right,
then you got a whole magazine about the German atom bomb project, which is, hey, that's cool. Well, I mean, not the bomb project, that was not cool, but the magazine educating us about the bomb project, that was cool. Would have been very uncool had the Germans actually developed nuclear weapons in 1944. So, yes. So, S&T and World at War have hit a more or less reliable schedule. One might be led to question whether that has had an impact on the quality of the contents. And I'm talking more about the game than the magazine, because the magazine is still generally excellent. So I totally dodged that question. I'd probably say where I'm at right now, I'd probably say against the odds of the three. Jesus Christ. I mean, at least Dan, the musician man, could have cool ringtones or something that would bother us in the middle of the streams. Or his ringtones. I mean, why don't you have your own music as ringtones?
Because I'd rather smoke a pipe.
Is that an Apple phone?
No, that's not. That's my other computer, my older Apple that I still haven't transferred all.
Yeah, but is the phone that just went off, is that an iPhone or an Android phone?
That's my Mac.
Oh, okay. That's even more inexplicably annoying then. So maybe this is not necessarily a bad idea. I could get on this. This is also true. There is I think you might still be able to get them like right now, but if so, it's about to end. Your ability to subscribe to Against the Odds is coming to an end. They announced that they weren't going to do subscriptions anymore. I'm not sure. I think that was a good idea, but I read the post that they put out, and I guess I understood. Paper Wars. So I would advise that those inquiring about Paper Wars, and this is a basically true statement. It's not exclusively Compass stuff, but it's largely Compass stuff. So if you buy a lot of Compass stuff and you want support for Compass stuff, then Paper Wars is a good value. The games that have appeared in Paper Wars have been hit and miss, but I'm not sure they've been more hit and miss than anybody else's magazine games either. I mean, C3I is the only one where I think the games have been consistently good to very good, if not outstanding, in some cases. Now, I'll also direct you to investigate the editor in charge of Paper Wars right now and make your own decisions as to whether you think he's doing a good job editorially. I'm not sure how long he's been at that job, but I'll leave it up to the audience to make that call. So I don't know if this is still being published. Yeah, this is true. There was like I forget what it was called, but it was like the Journal of Wargame Design or something like that from OSG. I'm not sure they've published an issue of this in many years. So Wargame Design Journal, something like that. As Agri Day, I think, is trying to get at. I mean, in a sense, really very few. And I've never looked at YA magazine, so that could be different. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's basically a pretty narrowly focused on the stuff from either Flying Pig or Flying Battles or both. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know that that's the case. This is a great idea. Dan, get on this. Call him up. Steve Rawlings, owner of Against the Odds.
That's Australian magazine?
Against the odds? They're in like Pennsylvania, something like that.
Same thing.
Not according to the Australians. So the OSG thing, they might be doing digital stuff. So there's also the Conflicts of Interest magazine from the SD HISCON people. They have not yet put out a second issue. There's War Diary, as we've mentioned, which does not typically come with a game, but it does typically come with some doodads and add-ons for games. Does anyone know why Command Magazine went away? It's a great question. I don't know, but they're still publishing the thing in Japan. I can tell you that. This is a good point, too. Paper Wars, I don't know if they're going to continue to do this or not, because I have no visibility on that, but over the last several years, really, Paper Wars has redone a lot of the stuff from Simulations Canada. Stacking Limit says "Ya" is actually broadly focused and not a house organ type of magazine, which is good. If nothing else, this makes it a bitch to Google, right? So if I'm going to complain about anything, I'm going to complain about that. I bitched about The War for a long time because you can't find the fucking thing on Board Game Geek because it's called The War. If you search for The War, you'll get 2,000 entries and you'll have to go 10 pages deep to find the thing you're looking for. So Ty Bamba was the editor of S&T for a while as well. Maybe more than once. That's possible. This is potentially an interesting topic. Wolfe Tone's Rebellion, the Irish Rebellion of 1798. Yeah, this is potentially interesting. This is the one where the French kept trying to intervene and they never did in any real way. The articles are very good in War Diary. I will be happy to say that.
Meandering Mike there.
Punched, another good call.
He's talking about Minden. Minden used to have the Panzerschreck magazine. I got a couple of Minden games. This is Gary Graber, right? He's from Ontario.
Okay. And, so I assume all Canadians are issued copies of these products at the age of maturity or something. I'm just wondering.
No, I wish, but you know what? I mean, he's got a lot of games in there, and some games, and they're simple games which are really cool. But I find it expensive, man. I just find it expensive.
So how do you mean? I'm not questioning that. I'm just wondering how you mean expensive. Are those games like rare and collectible? Is that why? Or
well, I mean they're small. It's a in-house printing type thing.
Okay.
And
not the only people doing that. If that's
no, I know. I mean, I wish I could pull some out real quick here, but that doesn't happen. And anyways, and it's a fun little small magazine, you know, this and that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, man. Yeah, I just find it expensive. I mean, maybe everything's all expensive these days. What the hell am I talking about?
Well, that's true. Yeah, everything is expensive right now. So when nobody's questioning that either. So
yeah, we get our maple syrup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're federally funded socialist maple syrup that they're
issuing. And when
maple syrup, the weekly maple syrup ration has arrived. And remember the milkman? In Canada, they have the maple syrup man.
And when we have an earache, we gotta go under a moose 3 times, so it'll go away.
So is Punch the SD HISCON magazine that I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Or was that Conflicts of Interest?
No, that's Conflict of Interest. Punch is the British guy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is it mostly a miniatures magazine? It sounds like not. They put Mark Simonich in there. I probably need to investigate that then. I've at least looked at it, but it's been a while and I'm getting it confused because lots of stuff going on. Andrew Atkin points out that wargaming stuff is expensive in Quebec, but there's well, it is, but and don't forget the best, the greatest Canadian artist of all time, Alanis Morissette.
No.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're getting that that QST, whatever it's called, that Quebec provincial tax as well. So
yeah, and also we're getting it up the ASS.
see, that would be I'm not even sure that's not even an acronym or an abbreviation because you haven't really abbreviated anything. So
don't get me started on taxes, man.
Oh dear, Justin Bieber. Andrew Atkins says that the greatest Canadian recording artist of all time is Justin Bieber, obviously.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. I don't know why you're not talking about your boys in Rush either, to be honest. So
you know, just to say, the son of a bitch government in Quebec, we get our tax federally. We get taxed federally 7 or 8%. I don't know. And the Quebec government taxes us on the tax.
I do not have any ability to affect this government policy.
God damn sons of beasts.
Wow. I despise Loverboy. I'd rather listen to Stan Rogers. What about Stan Rogers, Dan?
Stan Rogers is cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's Félix Leclerc. Félix Leclerc is a Quebec icon.
There's no D's in his name.
However, Félix Leclerc.
I'm just saying.
And his house is just like 10 minutes from my house.
There you go. Apparently Dave Chappelle lives here in Ohio. I didn't know that until recently.
God, he's funny. That guy is funny, man.
No, I didn't know that.
You didn't know he was funny.
The Bare Naked Ladies had at least one good song. Not saying they didn't have more. I just only think of one off the top of my head.
Carl, what the hell is your problem?
I hate Loverboy. Oh wow, Loverboy and who was that other terrible band from the late '80s, early '90s?
Sweetheart?
No. I mean, it might have been Loverboy, to be honest. I also strongly dislike What's Love, Flashdance Man, Kenny Loggins.
He's not Canadian.
He's not?
No.
Okay. Sure about that?
No.
So I agree. No comedian is funny to everybody. I'll say that. And for some reason, YouTube Shorts on the other on the personal channel wants to feed me a lot of Dave Chappelle. So I'm not sure I knew that Hootie and the Blowfish were Canadian. Loverboy was early 80s and mostly done by 86 or so. Thank God. Because they were terrible.
Yeah, I prefer the Crash Test Dummies to a lot of the bands that were named here. But no, Kenny Loggins is from Everett somewhere.
So Everett, Washington?
Yeah.
That's practically Canada.
No.
So I'm always happy to discover new stuff. And it's not like I've never heard of Patti Smith before. But I was listening to some Patti Smith on Spotify over the last week or so, and there's some pretty good stuff in there.
You're damn right.
So Scott Bell, no, you are wrong. Nobody loves Nickelback. Even the members of Nickelback are now embarrassed that they were former members of Nickelback.
Nobody mentions Joni Mitchell or Gordon Lightfoot or Neil Young. Like,
oh no, that's not true. Neil Young occasionally trends on Twitter. So
for God's sakes, man, these are 3 of the greatest songwriters of the 20th century.
Well, you got 1 out of 3. So
what?
1 out of 3.
No.
I'll give Joni Mitchell a fair amount of credit, actually, but Gordon Lightfoot, I think Stan Rogers is a better songwriter than Gordon Lightfoot.
Please.
So now all we need to do is convince them to take Detroit. So
yes, Robbie Robertson was from Canada.
Was he? I'm not sure I knew that. Robbie Robertson.
Yes, he was.
Okay. I didn't know that. We'll trade you William Shatner for Robbie Robinson. So
William Shatner's from Ontario.
Oh, well, so what? I mean, Edward, well, there's admittedly at least one great Gordon Lightfoot song, and some other decent ones.
Are you kidding me?
But yeah, I mean, I'll take Jim. I'll take Jim Croce or any number of people. Carole King or who was that other guy? James Taylor over Gordon Lightfoot.
Wait. Okay, because these guys used to hang around with Gordon Lightfoot.
Oh, sure.
Gordon Lightfoot taught him a few things, huh?
Okay. I mean, I think that Joni Mitchell, if nothing else, you have to say she's super influential, right?
Super.
Anne Murray, David Imperato mentions Anne Murray. I think Dan's got isn't that a picture of Anne Murray you have hanging on the wall behind you, Dan?
Yeah, but I don't think Anne Murray was a songwriter. That's the thing.
I'm not sure she was either. I could be wrong. I know the one song that we used to hear down here by Anne Murray was a Kenny Loggins song, actually. I think. Am I right about that? So maybe not.
Green.
I don't even know what that is.
Jesus Christ.
So
what about Twain?
I mean, you guys got like actual like shrines and like temples and shit to Celine Dion up there in Quebec, don't you?
In her hometown, there's a statue.
So there you go.
You know, let me tell you something. Me, with my educated musical ear, did I just say that? My educated musical ear? And my vast experience on the stage. Vast. Did I just say that? The vast experience on the stage?
I'm rolling with it. Go ahead.
Okay. Celine Dion is the greatest technical singer I have ever heard in my life.
Okay. As a non-musician, I would rather listen to her than Mariah Carey.
Yeah, of course.
But we're in the same ballpark there.
No.
So, Scott Bell would rather listen to Nickelback. So, now, you know, this course all subjective, and I'm just throwing shit Dan's way about Joni Mitchell and Neil Young and that. So, you know, we had an argument a couple weeks ago about this, about how Neil Young was nothing compared to Joni Mitchell. Now you're telling me Celine Dion is a greater technical vocalist than Ronnie James Dio? I don't know. I don't know about that at all. That sounds wrong to me.
I love Ronnie James Dio. I'll just say the late great Ronnie James Dio. Celine Dion is still afflicting us. So listen, Celine hasn't hit her stride yet in terms of vocal maturity.
She better. She's like 90.
No, she's our age, man.
Yeah, probably. So a lot of comedians from Canada as well. This is actually true. So, folks, our backup topic is Canada. So I hope everybody's okay with that. If you're not, you probably tuned out many months ago. So,
look, I'll tell you.
Paul Simon, good songwriter. Paul Simon wrote a lot of good songs.
Well, yeah.
I was thinking this exact same thing. I think there's some unannounced relationship there, actually, between Celine Dion and Ronnie James Dio. I'm just saying.
Look at Kilroy. Kilroy negotiated a license with Mariah Carey. Does she even speak the English?
I would rather listen to Howling Dogs than listen to Mariah Carey sing anything. For those of you watching who really enjoy Mariah Carey, good for you. I am leaving the room when Mariah Carey comes on. So,
man.
So Leonard Cohen had some really good songs too. He's somebody I have not explored much.
You should.
I probably should. I got all kind of time right then. Canadian Civil War is a hypothetical near future Canadian Civil War, by the way. And it's got a great cover too. Brilliant Redmond Simonson cover, by the way. So I'll point that out. I'm not sure how well it holds up as a game, but it is noteworthy. So I got some pointers to some history of wargaming articles in a couple issues of Strategy and Tactics that appeared over the years. And I've got one of those issues has arrived. Another of those issues is on its way at some point soon. And then the other one is ancient. It will cost me like $60, and I don't want to pay that. So, so some of those might have some very interesting factoids in them. Is my thought. So I need a copy of S&T 33 or a scan of that history article. If anybody's got a line on that, I don't need the game particularly. In fact, I think I don't remember what game that is. But I would like a scan of that article if anybody's got a line on that. I'd be happy today. The Great Emu War. Yeah, there's viral videos about this all over the place, actually. So,
hey, did you guys hear about the Pentagon and NASA releasing some news about a mothership in the air, in space?
Was this the? I mean, there was a couple.
Or what?
There was a couple of months ago, there was some talk about some kind of UFO related shit that was going to come out, and nothing ever came out. So is that because the government's covering it all up? I don't know, but I don't believe our government's competent enough to cover anything up for any appreciable length of time.
You know, there's all these amateur space watchers. They would have seen it anyways.
Yeah, that the issue in question of S&T is the one with Winter War, by the way, which was redone in S&T 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, something like that. So I don't know. I mean, I imagine inflation's even hitting the hookers and the blow. So.
That's hilarious, Andrew Atkin.
Well, we have pretty much managed to not talk too much about World War II tonight. So yes, we are on topic in that sense.
That's great.
So, and what about, speaking of that, Canadian war games? This is a topic we touch about on occasionally. What about Prelude to Rebellion, Dan? That happened like right there.
I gotta interview the guy. That's Marco Poutre. I gotta interview the guy. I forgot about that.
I assume he is a Canadian designer.
Yeah, he's a Quebecer.
Okay, I mean, I assume that. I'm asking. I didn't actually ask.
Montreal.
Okay.
He's actually the developer for Marc Rodrigues' bayonets and tomahawk.
Oh, really? I'm not sure I knew that.
And Marc Rodrigues can't stop talking about this amazing developer, the way he brings out certain stuff. You know,
he's also the developer for Prelude to Revolution, coming very, very soon from Compass. So
he's the developer for that.
Yeah.
No, the guy's Marc Rodrigues, these peppers, these Frenchmen, they're all these intellects, man.
Mobilization and unrest in Lower Canada, 1834 to 1837. I am given to understand that even Canadians are not taught about this conflict.
No.
But I played the system right in the sequel game, Prelude to Revolution, and it's really neat. So I would encourage folks to have a look at this thing. The map is it's one of those maps. I'm not sure if map is the right word. It kind of looks like an Excel spreadsheet. And I do think that graphical thing, there's reasons why it looks like that, but I do think that graphical thing has kind of been a turn off to some people.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So I do not have bayonets and tomahawks, and frankly, probably do need a game on the French and Indian War. Yeah, I pretty much don't have a game on the French and Indian War. I don't think. I'd probably lean more toward Wilderness War. I think that's going to fit my style a little better than bayonets and tomahawks. But that is, if I never get a game on the French and Indian War, then, it's not going to kill me. But it's, it's something I should get coverage on at some point. I need more on the 7 Years' War too, from a whole conflict standpoint. Alexander Fontaine Rousseau says Prelude to Rebellion is a great game. Scoring system is really clever. I completely agree. But he concedes it does in fact look a little bit like a spreadsheet.
I'm assuming Alexander is a Quebecer.
I am not guessing. So I don't have Wilderness War. I have Washington's War, but I don't have Wilderness War, and Washington's War is not all that much like Wilderness War, oddly enough. So Planet's Tomahawks is certainly an attractive game from a presentation standpoint. I have seen it. It does look nice. So Andrew Atkins, the folks that live in Quebec tell me something different. So, I mean, maybe the history buffs up there know all about these topics, but like the average Joe on the street or Joseph on the street do not, in fact, know about this. I'm given to understand. So,
what the hell happened in 1937 in Quebec?
Well, this thing, this happened.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's Upper Canada, though, isn't it?
Right. It's Lower Canada. It says Lower Canada.
Lower Canada.
I'm not crystal clear on what's Upper Canada and what's Lower Canada. But my understanding is that Lower Canada basically means that corridor along the Great Lakes that's actually inhabited by people in addition to moose. So, this is fair. This is fair. So, I have been kind of infected by the knowledge once I learned it that the French and Indian War is really just the America's name for the 7 Years' War that happened, part of which happened here, right? There is, in fact, a game called the 7 Years' World War that was in S&T in the Decision era, and that covers the whole globe in the context of the 7 Years' War between the great powers of that period. And while that is an attractive sales pitch, the game itself looks incredibly low granularity and is therefore unattractive to me. So,
God, I just got blasted.
By what?
I said, what's 1837? And man,
aren't you usually blasted?
I got fried here, man. It's the Patriot Rebellion.
Yeah.
La guerre des patriotes.
Okay.
And that's not where they coined the phrase "je me souviens," man. Is it?
I have no idea. They don't even teach kids in American schools that there is such a place as Canada anymore. They're led to believe that it is a made-up place like Narnia now. So, yes, this is true. I have not looked at that, however. This might be one of those rare Avalanche Press games that is actually supposed to be good. So that does occasionally happen. And to be fair, that Second World War at Sea, and I guess Great War at Sea too, but I'm much less interested in that, actually looks fairly attractive. Ruff and Tony from the War Room were playing. They did a live stream of them playing Panzer Grenadier, and I was like, it was on like a Saturday or something like that, and I was busy and I couldn't hop in and say, guys, I love you both, but it's like watching two guys that you like and whose work you respect punch each other in the balls for 2 hours. I would almost rather do that than play Panzer Grenadier again. So there you go. Florida, as usual, is at the cutting edge of cutting information out of the educational system. So apparently Upper Canada also had a rebellion. So when you talk to Marco, you got to ask him, what about the companion game about the rebellion in Upper Canada?
You know, that's I don't know much about this period. I'm freaked out. I gotta learn.
I literally, when I learned about this was when I looked at the cover of this game and I said, there was mobilization and unrest in Lower Canada from 1834 to 1837. We obviously never heard about that at all in my, primary and secondary education. And in college, I regret to say that Canadian history was not one of my focused areas. So
I gotta research that. That's super interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is apparently a brief but interesting topic, right? So, and this game, I haven't played this, but like I said, I've played the one on the Russian Revolution. The system's really pretty neat. So,
and it's funny because what I just read right now, it was obviously the Brits against the Frenchmen, which is an ongoing thing of love and hate here, but it's more hate. And there were American sympathizers on the Canadian side. No shit.
Well, sure. I mean, Canadian, as somebody I think pointed out in the comments tonight, there was a numbering in the thousands number of Canadians that fought in the American Civil War.
Yeah,
So,
I was saying that my pizza guy, his great-great-grandfather was at Gettysburg.
I thought you were going to say your pizza guy was in the American Civil War. I'm like, wow, that's a very, very active pizza guy.
No, and he was telling me, man,
he's obviously living a healthy lifestyle.
Gettysburg.
Well, okay, they're as a Canadian, or do they like emigrate here to the U.S. to Canada from the U.S.
because it's close to Maine. The province is close to Maine. I can't think of it right now. Which is Quebec,
right? Okay. So I'm confused now. It would be amusing if his grandfather, if he went down to the United States. His great-great-grandfather fought in the American Civil War at Gettysburg and then stayed in the U.S. And then his grandfather or father fled the U.S. To Canada to avoid the draft from going to Vietnam. So I'm just hypothesizing that would be an amusing family history story.
I'll ask him. The guy's a nice guy. He's massive.
So, yes. So Russia was missing. Yeah, oddly enough. So this is one of my things. We talked a little bit about imperial struggle last night, and I think one of the more compelling sort of features of that period is kind of because that's in like the century before the French Revolution, right? And so you're talking roughly, I forget the dates that the game says, but it's roughly 1690 to 1790, and there's a whole bunch of interesting things happening on the continent in that period, right? One of which is the rise of Prussia and the 7 Years' War, and the War of the Austrian Succession is in there. And a bunch of other interesting things happen, all of which are just like these little side events in imperial struggle. Now, on the one hand, I found that unsatisfying, but on the other hand, you're getting something of a picture playing imperial struggle of that entire century and kind of how events then influenced subsequent events. And I guess that's pretty cool. Thinking it through, right? I say this as somebody that didn't particularly enjoy my one play of Imperial Struggle, but I wouldn't mind trying it again, right? So, and we got to get more games on the Schult as well to give our Canadian brothers who fought that entire campaign with no bullets their due. So yes, well, in America, the job of pizza delivery person is considered extremely hazardous. So I don't know what to say.
There was about 40,000 Canadians fighting for the North.
Didn't any of them fight for the South?
There were sympathizers, but not much more.
I'm not even being a wise guy. I'm just asking. I have no. I mean, I'm aware that occurred, but I don't have any like numbers, right? So, I mean, remember, they're all still subjects of the king at that point. I mean, they're still subjects of the king now. So,
long live the king.
So this is true. But here's a great example of, hey, there's a game on this topic. Is this a war game? Great question. I think I'm not tackling that particular question since we've already committed.
I'm going to ask him.
Ironclad definition of what is and isn't a war game at this point. The Great Northern War is another one that there's at least a couple games on, but not a ton. There's a variety of wars between the Ottomans and the Russians that we have seen very little traffic on, despite those having a significant impact on European affairs. The Russo-Japanese War. These aren't like tremendously obscure historical topics, but we have not seen a lot of war game traffic on a lot of these. So that's true. That's true. It's the prelude to the war game. It's not the war game itself. So that's fair. I think that's completely fair. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. They would have had a queen at that point, wouldn't they? I did not put that together. The Boer War, we have seen jack on the Boer War, aside from treatments of a number of the battles at the tactical level. Yeah, well, that particular one, yeah, but there's other Russo-Turkish wars as well. So, Battles of the Northwest Rebellion. Prairie of Flame is on sale for $25. Agri Day, who is that available from? David Imperato mentions Pax Baltica from GMT. That's supposed to be a pretty decent game. That's a point-to-point card-driven game, if I'm not mistaken. We're getting a game on Wolf Tone's Rebellion pretty soon. That might be very interesting. David Imperato says that the ATO has a Boer War campaign game. I'd be pretty interested in seeing that. I have. My interest in tactical Boer War battles is absolutely non-existent. So, Ed KilRoyWasHere says there's an operational solo game covering the First Boer War. So that might also be fairly interesting. And that's something that maybe a solitaire game is a good arena to play in for that kind of weird topic, because you don't have to balance two players against one another. You only have to balance one player against the game. And it eludes the problem that you might find with war games on weird ass topics like this, that you have trouble finding like opponents that are interested in playing out a game, an operational game on the Boer War, right?
Oh, by the way, Canada pays $59 million to the Queen's administration in Canada.
Not anymore.
Every year.
Not anymore.
Well,
that's over now.
It's the king.
Right. It's the king's administration now. I don't know why.
Well, when she comes there, we got to do the pomp and shit.
Well, Dan, I got to tell you, she's not coming back.
Well,
I'm just saying. You're gonna have to check that out. Thank you for the Canvas Temple. That sounds actually kind of interesting, because it's actually an interesting subject. I've got zero. I may have a magazine game or two on the Boer War, and to my great dismay, I have a game already about the Arab-Israeli War of 1973, which I didn't realize I had. So in the process of going through the magazines, I'm like, oh, I've got October War here. Well, this might be something that gets thrown on a table at some point. Arab-Israeli Wars is another thing. Not a big topic, but we have seen a somewhat steady, treatment of various Arab-Israeli War related topics over the years, right? Every few years we'll see something. So Red vs. Reverse is solitaire. Am I wrong about that? Am I thinking of something else?
I don't know, but they could have chose a better title for ADD people than that, for God's sakes.
Then Red vs. Reverse? Why?
Because everything looks like red verse or reverse. What's first? What's left?
Red. I think it's red. I think it's, yeah, you got me confused, but I think it's Red verse. So it's named after the dude who was there, who suffered a reverse. So yeah, Alexander Fontaine Rousseau says solitaire design, and there's a companion game too, which is another Boer War topic that goes with it if you're super into that topic. There have been several games on Rourke's Drift. There have been several games on Isandlwana, which I have no idea whether I'm pronouncing or not.
Isandlwana. Isandlwana.
Okay. How do you say Ypres?
Ypres.
Ypres? Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me. But I'm told that that's not how the locals say it. So,
well, the locals, they're Belgian. You don't understand anything anyways.
Well, some of them speak Dutch and some of them speak French, and neither of them, the Dutch speakers won't admit that they're speaking Dutch, and the French speakers won't admit that they're speaking French.
There's a Belgian guy having a microbrewery here, by the way, Ardi. His beer is stellar.
Oh, the Belgians make the best beer in the world.
His beer is stellar.
No, I totally believe that. You're not talking about Unibrew, are you? You're talking about some kind of microbrew.
No, I'm talking about a local guy, like 5 minutes from my place, man.
Okay.
And this is how he talks, Ardi.
Okay,
that's what I hear.
Does he look anything like Hercule Poirot?
He's got the biggest fucking head you've ever seen. These Belgians are fucking massive.
The Belgians also have the largest coconuts on planet Earth.
The guy grows his own hops and all that. Stellar beer.
This is supposed to be really great, actually, and frankly, this is the kind of thing that would work really well. Or the Alamo. Have they done an Alamo States of Siege game? Because one would think that would actually be pretty good in that engine, actually. I'm aware of this phenomenon. I refuse to call it wipers, however, because it just doesn't look like that. I mean, I took 2 years of French in high school. I can't forgive myself if I pronounce it wipers.
Well, maybe it's wiper.
Depends if they're French Canadians or not. I love German wheat beer. For the record, I like German wheat beer better than American wheat beer. Just as a thing, I like wheat beer in general, though. Even American wheat beer is not too bad. I also really like German Roggenbier, which is rye beer. I love rye beer. Rye beer.
I'm freaking drinking wheat beer right now.
You don't get much. You don't see it very much. That's for sure. Rausch beer, German smoked beer. That's something else.
Oh, I never had that.
Oh, it's neat. You should definitely try it at least once. There may be some microbreweries making a smoked beer too, but I would try and actually run down a German Rausch beer. If I can get it in Ohio, you can get it in Canada. So, unless it's heroin, that might be different. That's easier to get in Ohio than Rausch beer. But the Belgians do make phenomenal beer. I'm pretty convinced that although the Germans will be upset with, and the Irish will be upset with me for saying this, I think the best beer on the planet comes from Belgium.
And look, I mean, and Montreal models itself. Our best beer is Belgian style beer.
Yes, Unibrew's stuff is amazing.
Amazing.
So,
and you know, who bought Unibrew? No, it's what's that Japanese beer there? What the Sapporo just bought Sleeman's.
Oh, okay. I've never had Sapporo, whatever.
Yeah,
I've never had it. Although there's nothing that says that the Japanese can't make good beer, because
they make good beer.
You know, as a provincial American rustic, when I went to Mexico, I was very surprised to find that their beer on average is considerably better than our beer here in the United States. Now, this was 20 years. Well, it might have been longer than that. This was a long time ago, and American microbrews have become much more prominent now. And you can certainly get plenty of good microbrew beer here in the U.S.
Absolutely.
But like the standard American Pilsner, that's bullshit. It's like barely beer.
Archie Bunker beer.
Yeah. Well, Archie Bunker's a bad, mean drunk. No thanks. I'd rather quality over quantity.
No, I mean, it's the crap beer that Archie Bunker.
Oh, it's trash. It's just trash. It doesn't taste like anything. It just tastes like sadness and failure.
It's sadness. So, oh, that's bad, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm happy to drink what's that stuff from Yingling? That's pretty decent. Anything from Sam Adams is fine. Anything from Fat Tire is fine. If in a pinch, I might do Killian's Irish Red or something like that, but no.
Can you
I'd rather not drink beer than drink that stuff.
Can you get Unibrew where you are, Ardi?
Yeah.
Can you get the Mozit?
I've never had it, but yeah, probably.
If you have the Mozit, have it in a bowl.
A bowl or a snifter?
A bowl,
okay.
like a salad bowl, like an individual salad bowl, like the monks in Belgium used to have. Because, and I have a Unibrew. I have a what the hell beer did I just mention?
Unibrew.
Yeah, but what was the goddamn beer? La Mozit, and it's a big open vessel that you pour it in, so your whole face is in it while you're, and the experience is unbelievable.
I bet. And then you go take a shower because you got a face full of beer.
It's unbelievable.
It sounds unbelievable until you forget about everything in the morning.
It's a beautiful beer. Beautiful.
Unibrew is one of the best breweries in the Americas, so I got no doubt about that. All right, folks, we are way out of time here. We have run far over schedule, and we've got important tasks to attend to in mere minutes. So I would like to thank, looking for the friggin' video here. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Be sure and tune in to this show next week, maybe on both channels, or Dan's show on Saturday and my show on Monday, and all the other shows that we have in the times when we have shows. So thanks, everybody.
Big move. Big win. The moose is loose. Big moves. Big win. The moose is loose. Big moves. Big win.